Hello friends. Today I want to talk about something that is really important to me, and for those of you who also are leaders in business and leaders of people, leaders of organizations, or you're just interested to hear and kind of have somebody flesh out what leaders in your organization ought to be like. But this isn't just about the workplace. I think this also extends to politics. We see this all the time in US politics, of course, and now we are in a beginning of federal election. So you should be able to see traits of a charismatic leader. So today I want to talk about 3 different things that I feel should be expressed by charismatic leaders, as in these are ways that I demonstrate and practice being a charismatic leader. So I only wrote down some bullet points. This isn't heavily scripted. I'm not doing any editing. I'm just going to speak to you, which is really what I want to be able to do all the time. So the first thing I would say is to be a storyteller. I can't underscore the importance of this. You do see this often. You do see candidates running in elections, and you do see higher level leaders, like C-suite leaders. They're always telling stories. They're always telling stories about something from their past, something they've witnessed, something they were involved in, maybe someone in their family or someone else they knew. Sometimes they even tell weird adages and metaphors and fable type stories that from something in the past or something completely fictional. But the point is that they are making an attempt to be a storyteller. So why is that important? Well, in my view, when you tell stories about yourself, you are practicing introspection. You are practicing and you are demonstrating that you think about yourself, that you are considered, that you ponder on your past, and you try to find the value in that to be able to share with others. So it kind of projects outward that you are the kind of person who maybe is a positive thinker, because you're thinking and considering your past and thinking, how do I tell a story? How do I put this into a form and format that would be beneficial for people to hear? And how can I make my argument and make my point? In the same way, I believe it is showing and practicing vulnerability. Because by telling a real story about yourself, you are putting a piece of your life further out there for people to see and hear, especially if the story is not 100% flattering to you and your character, but maybe it's just a real life story. So if you also want to be more genuine, then tell a real life story. Maybe one that doesn't paint you as the superstar and this storybook polished character, but a real story about yourself. It will go a long way to people really connecting with you, feeling relatedness, and really being able to build loyalty with you. The second thing that I would say, and this is definitely connected to the storytelling piece, is to be authentic. To be authentic to yourself. I've always said you cannot create authenticity. It's either authentic or it's not. And so what I mean by that is admit that you were wrong and admit that you're not perfect. Now, this may sound perfectly reasonable to those of you listening, but think about leaders you see, especially in politics. Very frequently, they have great difficulty admitting when they were wrong. And there's this belief that in order to be a leader, I have to be strong. I have to always be right. I have to never be wrong. I always have to have been knowing what I was doing all along the way. I can never admit that there was uncertainty or risk, or admit that I failed. And I can tell you, especially to be a leader of people, one that actually gets to meet people and speak in truth about their experiences, about their plans, about their hopes, you have to be able to admit that you were wrong when you were wrong. And to not fear that you're going to be docked points or viewed as a lesser person by admitting that you were wrong. Because people, as we look at our leaders in organizations and politics and so on, we have to think about them as real people too. And therefore, as leaders, we have to acknowledge that the people that we are leading are also real people. And that when we are not telling the truth, they see right through that. So my guidance and my advice is to speak truth to the reality that has taken place, right? Life is chaotic. Things do not go as planned. Things are uneven. We fail. We screw up. We go into things with uncertainty. We take risks, right? All of that is acknowledging the reality and the truth of life and the world and our experiences. We grow, and so often we see leaders that don't want to admit any of that. They want to talk in other ways, but they don't want to admit that they've grown. They don't want to admit that their successes are built on a heap of failures. They don't want to admit that they were uncertain about something, or they went into something not knowing all the facts, because that's the truth of life. That is the truth of the human experience. So when I say to be authentic, I mean to be truthful about your human experience as a leader. It doesn't matter what your job or your title is. God forbid we are authentic and really express what our experience has been. The third piece I would say is to practice gratitude. And this is not cliche, but when I say practice it, I also mean to speak it. So when you are speaking with another person, speaking in front of many people, maybe putting together a message in writing, to be able to specifically thank people, to recognize others. Because every leader of people got where they are, not on their own. In fact, there's very little concept of a self-made person. Everybody got where they were through the support of others. Whether or not you were given your power, your privilege, your authority because of somebody else. But you don't become a leader of people unless people give you that power, right? So it's important to recognize the people along the way, whether they were your mentors, your parents, your significant other, your spouse, or just your friends. But even beyond that, maybe the people who you do lead, maybe they work for you, maybe they report to you. And it's important to always recognize them, as well as to not fear to recognize in a 360-degree circle. So when I'm talking about a success that I've had, I recognize the leaders that are higher up in the hierarchy and the chain than me. At the top of the pyramid, I also recognize my peers. I always thank them for their trust and support, even though if I didn't always feel like I had the 100% of their trust and support, I will still recognize them for the times that they did express that and for those who did. And I will always recognize the people who work for me, who I lead, because I know that as a leader, I'm responsible for them. I'm responsible for their successes, their failures, their results, and their successes, failures, results are mine. And that's the truth about being a leader in business. That's the truth about being a leader of people, is you are responsible. You speak for the people for which you lead. So it's incumbent upon you to recognize them for their contributions and their hard work. And especially when it comes to private business, to let's get past the concept that their paycheck is all the thanks we owe to them. That is absolutely ludicrous. That is true only if you believe that people are simply pawns of organizations only. That is true if you believe that people are employees first before they're human beings. I don't agree with that. I believe that people are people first and their workers second. Their employees, their staff, that comes second. And it costs nothing to recognize people. It costs nothing to express gratitude and to recognize things for which it actually is. So expressing gratitude is critical for a charismatic leader. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you feel like this really hit something here and here for you, that you as a leader can express some of these things, or you feel validated in the fact that you do. And if you are not necessarily a leader of people, for you to think, yes, I really would love that out of my boss. I would love that out of my manager, out of the leaders in my organization, and especially the leaders in our politics. Those are things we should be seeing out of them. So thanks for watching, guys.